Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
We're thankful for your continued viewership. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? We love knowing our global reach. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Message. Lucas Davenport stared at the text message on his phone, the blue light illuminating his weathered face in the dimness of the military transport plane. Around him, other soldiers dozed or chatted excitedly about returning home for Christmas, but Lucas felt the blood drain from his face as he read the message again. Christmas is better without you. Mom doesn't want you here either. Don't come. The text was from Aiden, his 16-year-old son. After 3 consecutive deployments with Special Forces spanning 4 years, with only brief visits home, this was to be Lucas's triumphant return, his first real Christmas with his family in years. He had endured firefights in dust-choked valleys, spent endless nights in forward operating bases, and watched brothers in arms fall beside him, all with a single sustaining thought: I'm doing this for them, for my family. His fingers hovered over the phone. So many responses flooded his mind. Questions, protests, anger. But 17 years of military discipline had taught him economy of expression. He typed a single word: understood. Then he switched to his banking app and made a quiet change to some paperwork. A few taps on the screen transferred funds from joint accounts to a private one his wife, Melissa, didn't know existed. Lucas had always been prudent. The plane hit turbulence, but Lucas barely registered the jolt. His mind was already racing ahead, tactical planning kicking in. The same skills that had kept him alive in combat now redirected toward a different kind of battlefield. Sergeant Wilson, seated beside him, noticed his expression. Everything all right, Davenport? Bad news from home. Lucas locked his phone. Just a change of plans. Thought you were headed straight to Colorado Springs? Lucas said, his voice even. Now I'm not. Colonel Ray Peters found Lucas in the terminal after they landed at Andrews Air Force Base. The colonel had been Lucas's commanding officer for 7 years and knew him better than most. Davenport, thought you'd be halfway to Colorado by now. Your connecting flight left 20 minutes ago. Lucas glanced up from his laptop. Taking a detour, sir. Colonel Peters studied him. Your wife know about this detour? No, sir. The colonel sat beside him. Trouble at home? Nothing I can't handle. Lucas continued typing, finalizing a rental car reservation. You've been through hell these past few deployments, Davenport. Kandahar. That mess in Syria. The extraction in Yemen. You've earned your homecoming. Lucas stopped typing. Turns out I'm not welcome at home. The colonel's eyebrows rose. Want to talk about it? Not particularly, sir. Fair enough. Peters handed him a business card. My brother-in-law. Best divorce attorney in Virginia. Just in case your detour becomes permanent. Lucas took the card, tucking it into his wallet. Appreciate it, sir. Whatever's happening, remember who you are, Davenport. You're a planner. Don't do anything rash. Lucas smiled thinly. I never do, sir. Everything I do is calculated. 48 hours later, Lucas sat in a modest hotel room in Denver, watching his phone light up with the 13th missed call in 2 hours. This one from a Colorado number he didn't recognize. He let go to voicemail. When the notification appeared, he played it back. Mr. Davenport, this is Graham Phillips from Phillips and Waterman Attorneys at Law. I'm representing Melissa Davenport in this matter. It is imperative that we speak immediately regarding the financial actions you've taken. Please call our office as soon as possible. Lucas checked his watch. Then he opened his laptop and refreshed the banking page. The transfer had cleared. The second phase of his plan could begin. He wasn't just a soldier. He was a strategist. And Melissa had forgotten that. Chapter 2. The Discovery. Lucas remembered his wedding day 16 years ago. Melissa had been radiant in her simple white dress, her auburn hair catching the sunlight. Back then, he'd been a young lieutenant with dreams of making a difference, and she'd been a dedicated nurse with a compassionate heart. They'd built a life together brick by brick. The house in Colorado Springs, the birth of Aiden, and 3 years later, their daughter Nora. The long deployments had started taking their toll during his 3rd tour. Lucas had tried to bridge the distance, video calls whenever possible, care packages sent for birthdays and anniversaries, planning special trips during his leaves. But something had changed over the past year. Melissa's calls grew shorter, her letters less frequent. He'd attributed it to the stress of managing everything alone. Now, sitting in a nondescript rental car outside his own home, Lucas realized how naive he'd been. A silver Audi he didn't recognize sat in his driveway, next to Melissa's SUV. Through binoculars, Lucas watched as a tall man with salt and pepper hair emerged from his front door, followed by Melissa. They embraced on the porch, not a friendly hug, but an intimate one that ended with a lingering kiss. Lucas remained perfectly still, his breathing controlled as he had been trained to do while on surveillance missions. He snapped several photos with his phone and then started the car. As he pulled away, he caught sight of Aiden watching from an upstairs window. Their eyes met briefly before Lucas drove off. His next stop was Riverdale High School. He waited in the parking lot until the final bell rang and students began streaming out. It took him 10 minutes to spot Nora among the crowd. His 14-year-old daughter had grown taller since he'd last seen her, her hair now styled differently, but he'd recognize her anywhere. He watched as she climbed into a friend's car, laughing at something. No sign that her world was crumbling. No indication that she'd participated in sending that text. But he needed to be sure. That evening, Lucas followed the silver Audi to an upscale neighborhood in the northern part of the city. The man, who Lucas now knew from a simple DMV record search, was Dr. Nathaniel Wilcox, chief of surgery at Memorial Hospital where Melissa worked, pulled into the driveway of a large Tudor-style home. Lucas parked and walked to a coffee shop with a view of the house. He opened his laptop and, using skills acquired during intelligence operations, accessed public records about Dr. Wilcox. Divorced 3 years ago. 2 previous marriages, both ended the same way. A pattern was emerging. His phone rang again, Melissa. He declined the call and checked his email instead. The message from his old Army buddy, now working in digital security, contained exactly what he'd asked for: access to Melissa's text message history. It was in black and white. The affair had been going on for 18 months. Messages planning rendezvous while Lucas was deployed. Discussions about their future together. And most damning of all, conversations about how to tell Lucas they wanted a divorce. Time for maximum financial advantage to Melissa. But the text that truly chilled his blood wasn't from Melissa to Nathaniel. It was from Melissa to Aiden, sent the day before Lucas received that crushing message. Your father's coming home tomorrow. Remember what we discussed. It's better this way. Dr. Wilcox will be a better father figure for you and Nora. Be strong. Lucas closed his laptop. His son hadn't betrayed him on his own. He'd been manipulated. But that didn't excuse his actions. Not entirely. As darkness fell, Lucas made his way to a different hotel, paid in cash, and began meticulously planning his next moves. Colonel Peters had been right about one thing. Lucas was a planner. But he'd been wrong about another. Sometimes calculated looked a lot like rash to people who didn't understand strategy. Lucas's phone buzzed with a text from a number he didn't recognize. This is Ted Phillips, your wife's attorney. You need to respond immediately or face legal consequences. Lucas typed back a single word, understood. Then he turned off his phone and continued planning. Chapter 3, The Strategy. The modest office building in downtown Denver housed Hanover Investigations, a private firm run by Dominic Foster, a former Marine who'd served with Lucas in Iraq during his first tour. Lucas hadn't called ahead, but Dominic's face lit up with recognition when he walked through the door. Davenport, heard you were still getting shot at overseas. The burly ex-Marine embraced him in a bear hug. Just got back, Lucas said, returning the hug with less enthusiasm. Dominic pulled back, studying his friend's face. This isn't a social call, is it? I need your help, Dom. An hour later, they sat surrounded by printouts of text messages, bank statements, and property records. Dominic whistled low. Your wife and the good doctor have been busy. Joint checking account opened 6 months ago. Weekend trips while you were deployed. And it looks like they've been house hunting together. He pointed to a series of emails. These are for viewings of properties in Aspen. Second homes. Vacation spots. Paid for with what money? Lucas asked, though he already knew the answer. Dominic met his eyes. Yours, brother. your military salary, your investment portfolio. And it looks like they've been accessing your grandfather's trust fund, the one you've been saving for the kids' college. Lucas felt a cold fury settle in his chest. The money didn't matter. What mattered was the betrayal, the calculated deception. What's your play here, Luke? Because running off half your assets and changing some beneficiaries won't be enough if she's got a good attorney. I'm not just changing beneficiaries, Lucas said quietly. I'm changing everything, but I need hard evidence, and I need it fast. Dominic nodded. I can get you everything in 72 hours, but it'll cost you. Money's not an issue. It's not just about the money. Dominic leaned forward. What are you planning to do with this information, Luke? Because if you're thinking about something permanent, I'm not going to kill anyone. If that's what you're asking, Lucas interrupted. I'm a soldier, not a murderer. Good, because I wouldn't help with that. Dominic relaxed slightly. But I will help you burn their world to the ground legally. Just don't cross that line. The only line I'm interested in is the one between what's mine and what's theirs, Lucas assured him. And they've crossed it for the last time. That evening, Lucas checked into yet another hotel under a different name. He had always maintained operational security, a habit from his military career that now served a different purpose. His phone showed 27 missed calls, 15 from Melissa, 8 from her lawyer, 3 from Aiden, and 1 from an unknown number. He listened to the voicemail from the unknown caller. Dad, it's Nora. Mom and Aiden won't tell me what's going on, but I know something's wrong. Mom's been crying, and there are weird men in suits at the house asking questions. Please call me back. I miss you. Lucas closed his eyes. Nora, his sweet, perceptive daughter. The voice message suggested she hadn't been part of the plan to drive him away. He saved the voicemail, but didn't call back. Not yet. First, he needed to be sure. His laptop pinged with an incoming email from Dominic. The subject line read, First batch of evidence. More coming tomorrow. You were right. Attached were surveillance photos of Dr. Wilcox entering Lucas's home using his own key. Time-stamped images showed him comfortable in Lucas's space, wearing Lucas's robe, drinking from Lucas's coffee mug, little violations that somehow cut deeper than the affair itself. But most valuable was the audio file, legal in Colorado with one-party consent, of Melissa and Nathaniel discussing their plans. Once the divorce is final, we'll sell this place, combine our assets, and build something that's truly ours, Melissa was saying. No more ghosts of Lucas haunting every room. What about the kids? Nathaniel asked. Aiden's already on board. He barely remembers his father anymore, just the broken promises and missed birthdays. Nora will be tougher, but she'll adjust. Children are resilient. And the money? His military pension, the investments? Melissa's laugh was cold, unfamiliar. Colorado is an equitable distribution state. After 16 years of marriage, with him absent for most of it, I'll get at least half of everything. My lawyer says we have a good case for more, given his extended absences. The recording continued, but Lucas had heard enough. They weren't just planning to replace him. They were planning to rob him of everything he'd worked for, including his children. Lucas opened his secure email and composed a message to Colonel Peters. Sir, remember that conversation we had at Andrews? I may need your brother-in-law's services after all. But first, I need a favor only you can provide. He hit send, then called the number for Phillips and Waterman attorneys. This is Lucas Davenport, he said when the receptionist answered. I believe Mr. Phillips has been trying to reach me. One moment, Mr. Davenport. The line clicked, and a smooth, professional voice came on. Mr. Davenport, thank you for finally returning our calls. Your actions have caused my client considerable distress. Have they? Lucas kept his voice neutral. Emptying joint accounts without notice is not looked upon favorably by family courts. I strongly advise you to reverse these transactions immediately. I'll consider that advice, Mr. Phillips. This isn't a negotiation, the lawyer continued. Unless you want to find yourself on the losing end of a very expensive legal battle, you'll transfer those funds back by close of business today. Mr. Phillips, Lucas said calmly. Has your client informed you of the full nature of her relationship with Dr. Nathaniel Wilcox? A pause. I'm not at liberty to discuss. Or about their plans for my children. or how they've been systematically accessing my grandfather's trust fund for their personal use. A fund explicitly designated for my children's education. Silence. I thought not, Lucas continued. You'll be receiving a package of evidence tomorrow morning. After you've reviewed it, if you still wish to represent Melissa Davenport, we can continue this conversation. Until then, I have nothing further to say. He hung up before the lawyer could respond and turned his attention back to his computer. Phase 1 was complete, securing his assets and gathering evidence. Now came Phase 2, the strategic counterattack. Colonel Peters had taught him an important lesson years ago. In warfare, the objective isn't to fight fair, it's to win decisively. Lucas intended to do exactly that. Chapter 4, The Leverage. 3 days after his return to American soil, Lucas sat across from attorney Victoria Reeves in her downtown Denver office. Colonel Peters' brother-in-law had connected him with Reeves, describing her as a shark who smiles only when she smells blood in the water. The elegant, silver-haired woman reviewed the dossier Lucas had compiled with Dominic's help, her expression remaining impassive until she reached the financial records. Then her eyebrows rose fractionally. Dr. Wilcox has been writing prescriptions for non-existent patients and billing insurance companies, she noted, tapping a manicured nail against the document. And your wife has been falsifying nursing records to cover for him. That's insurance fraud. Yes, Lucas confirmed. And these property purchases in Aspen, using a shell company funded by your grandfather's trust, that's misappropriation of fiduciary funds. Also yes. Victoria closed the folder. Mr. Davenport, with evidence this comprehensive, we could not only secure you a very favorable divorce settlement, but potentially see your wife and her paramour facing criminal charges. I'm not interested in criminal charges, Lucas clarified. Not yet. I want leverage. For what purpose? My children, Lucas said simply. Melissa has poisoned my son against me. I need time to fix that. Victoria studied him. Most clients in your position want blood. I'm not most clients. I've seen enough bloodshed to last several lifetimes. Very well. She steepled her fingers. Here's what I propose. We prepare divorce filings, but don't submit them immediately. Instead, we arrange a meeting with your wife and her attorney, without Dr. Wilcox present. We present selected evidence and outline terms. What terms? Full physical custody of your children during divorce proceedings. Exclusive access to your family home. Complete separation of your financial assets from hers. And a gag order preventing her from discussing the case with anyone, including Dr. Wilcox. Lucas considered this. They won't agree. They will when the alternative is federal prosecution for insurance fraud. Victoria smiled thinly. People facing prison become remarkably flexible negotiators. Lucas nodded. Set up the meeting. But there's something else I need to do first. That afternoon, Lucas sat in his rental car outside Riverdale High School. When the final bell rang, he spotted Nora immediately. She was walking alone, head down, none of the carefree joy he'd observed days earlier. He stepped out of the car. Nora. His daughter froze, then turned slowly. Her eyes widened. Dad! For a moment, neither moved. Then Nora ran to him, colliding with his chest as his arms wrapped around her. She was sobbing. You came back, she managed between breaths. You got my message. I did. He held her tightly. I'm sorry I didn't call back sooner. She pulled away slightly. Mom said you abandoned us, that you took all our money and disappeared. Lucas felt a sharp stab of anger, but kept his expression gentle. That's not what happened, Nora. But it's complicated. Are you and Mom getting divorced? Probably, he admitted. But that doesn't change how I feel about you, or Aiden. Aiden hates you right now, she said bluntly. He believes everything Mom and Dr. Nate say. Dr. Nate? That's what they want us to call him. Nora rolled her eyes, as if he's suddenly family. Lucas suppressed a surge of fury. Has he been staying at the house? Almost every night since you left. Mom said it's because she's scared you might come back and hurt her. The accusation hit Lucas like a physical blow. Nora, I would never. I know, Dad. Her faith in him was unwavering. I told them that, but they don't listen to me. They treat me like a child. You're a child, Lucas said softly. My child. And I'm going to fix this. Ow! Do you trust me? She nodded without hesitation. Then I need you to do something for me. Lucas handed her a small, encrypted flash drive. This contains some information. I need you to plug it into your mother's laptop and press the button that says Execute. Can you do that? What will it do? Nora asked, examining the device. It will help me protect you and Aiden, Lucas said. And it won't harm anyone. I promise. Nora tucked the drive into her pocket. I'll do it tonight. One more thing, Lucas said. Don't tell anyone you saw me today. Not your brother. Not your mother. No one. Can you keep that secret? Yes. She hugged him again. When will I see you again? Soon, Lucas promised. Very soon. As he watched Nora walk away, Lucas felt both pride and sorrow. His daughter's loyalty was a bright spot in this darkness, but the fact that she had been drawn into this mess filled him with regret. Children shouldn't have to choose sides between parents. But Melissa had forced that choice, and now she would face the consequences. Later that night, Lucas's laptop pinged with an alert. The program on the flash drive had been activated. Within seconds, data began flowing to a secure server. Emails, text messages, financial records, browser history. Everything on Melissa's laptop. Among the files was a folder labeled Divorce Strategy. Inside were documents detailing plans that had been in motion for over a year, consultations with attorneys, discussions with financial advisors about hiding assets, and, most disturbingly, a psychological evaluation of Lucas that portrayed him as potentially unstable due to PTSD from his deployments. They had been building a case to paint him as an unfit father, a dangerous man whose military service had left him broken. Lucas's phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. Meeting set for tomorrow, 10 a.m., my office. Both M and her attorney confirmed. Lucas sent back his acknowledgement, then opened the dossier he'd been building. With the new information from Melissa's laptop, his position was even stronger. The house of cards she and Dr. Wilcox had constructed was about to collapse. His phone rang. Dominic. You need to see this, his friend said without preamble. Wilcox just made a large cash withdrawal and purchased one-way tickets to Cancun for next week. 2 passengers, him and your wife. They're planning to run, Lucas realized. Looks that way. What's your move? Lucas thought for a moment. Let them think their plan is still viable. For now, playing with fire, brother. Fire is only dangerous if you're the one getting burned, Lucas replied. And I have no intention of being anywhere near the flames when they ignite. Chapter 5. The Meeting. Victoria Reeves's conference room projected power and wealth. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Denver. A massive mahogany table that could seat 20, and artwork that Lucas suspected cost more than his annual salary. It was designed to intimidate, and judging by the nervous glances Melissa kept exchanging with her attorney, it was working. Lucas sat beside Victoria, his posture relaxed but alert. Across the table, Melissa looked both angry and afraid, an interesting combination. Her attorney, Graham Phillips, maintained a professional facade, but his frequent checking of his watch betrayed his anxiety. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting, Victoria began, her voice smooth as polished marble. We have a proposal that could save everyone considerable time, expense, and public embarrassment. Phillips cleared his throat. Before we proceed, my client demands the immediate return of funds Mr. Davenport improperly removed from joint accounts. Victoria smiled, the predatory expression Lucas had been warned about. Mr. Phillips, I'd advise against making demands in your current position. She slid a folder across the table. Please review these documents while we wait. As Phillips opened the folder, Lucas studied his wife. Melissa had always been beautiful, tall and slender with auburn hair and green eyes that had once looked at him with love. Now those same eyes avoided his gaze, focusing instead on her manicured nails. Phillips's face paled as he turned each page. Where did you get these records? Does their provenance matter more than their contents? Victoria countered. These allegations are factual, Victoria interrupted. Every document in that folder has been verified. The insurance fraud alone carries a minimum 5-year federal sentence. Melissa's head snapped up. Insurance fraud? What are you talking about? Phillips placed a restraining hand on her arm. "We need to confer privately." "By all means," Victoria gestured to a side door. "The adjoining room is available." As they left, Lucas remained silent, his eyes fixed on the Denver skyline. He prepared himself for this moment, seeing Melissa, confronting the betrayal face to face. What he hadn't expected was the hollow feeling in his chest. Not pain or anger, just emptiness. "You're handling this well," Victoria observed quietly. "I've had worse days," Lucas replied. "Most clients break down or rage. You're remarkably composed." "Military training," Lucas explained. "Emotion clouds judgment, and I need clear judgment right now." Melissa and Phillips returned 15 minutes later. Phillips looked resigned, while Melissa's earlier fear had transformed into cold fury. "We're prepared to discuss terms," Phillips announced. Victoria outlined their demands. Lucas would retain the family home and primary custody of both children during divorce proceedings. Melissa would move out immediately. The trust fund would be frozen pending final settlement, and a temporary gag order would prevent either party from discussing the case with anyone outside their legal counsel. "This is extortion," Melissa hissed, finally meeting Lucas's eyes. "You're using our children as pawns." "That's an interesting accusation," Lucas responded, his voice calm, "coming from the woman who coached our son to tell me not to come home for Christmas." "You weren't coming home for us," Melissa shot back. "You were coming home because your deployment ended. There's a difference, and that difference justifies what you did. 16 years, Lucas. 16 years of raising our children alone while you played hero in foreign countries. Of never knowing if you were dead or alive. Of restarting our lives every time you got transferred. What did you expect? Honesty," Lucas said simply. "If you wanted out, you could have said so. Instead, you lied. You stole. You turned our son against me. I protected our son from more disappointment." Melissa's voice cracked. "From more empty promises and missed birthdays." Lucas leaned forward. "Here's what's going to happen, Melissa. You're going to sign these papers. You're going to move out of our house. And then you're going to tell Aiden the truth about why I stayed away when I was supposed to come home for Christmas. And if I refuse?" Lucas nodded to Victoria, who produced another folder. "Then these documents go to the FBI, the Colorado Medical Board, and the press." Phillips placed a restraining hand on Melissa's arm again. "My client will sign the temporary agreement. One condition," Melissa said, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "Nathaniel isn't mentioned in any of this. Leave him out of it." Lucas exchanged a glance with Victoria, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. "Agreed," Lucas said. "For now." As Melissa signed the documents, Lucas felt no triumph, no vindication. Just the weight of what came next, rebuilding his relationship with his children, particularly Aiden, while navigating the wreckage of his marriage. His phone vibrated with a text from Dominic. "Subject 2 just booked a third ticket to Cancun. Child's fare." Lucas's blood ran cold. They weren't just planning to flee, they were planning to take one of his children with them. And given Aiden's animosity toward him, it wasn't hard to guess which child. He showed the message to Victoria, whose expression hardened. "Sign here, Mr. Davenport," she said, indicating the final page. "We have additional matters to address immediately." As they left the conference room, Victoria whispered, "My office." Now, once inside her private office with the door closed, Victoria's professional calm gave way to urgent efficiency. "If they're planning to take your son out of the country against a custody order, we need an emergency hearing," she said, already dialing her assistant. "Judge Watkins owes me a favor. We can get before him this afternoon." "We need more than a hearing," Lucas said. "We need surveillance on both Melissa and Wilcox, and we need to secure Aiden." "Mr. Davenport, whatever you're thinking, they won't just abduct my son in broad daylight," Lucas interrupted. "They'll wait until the last possible moment, probably the night before their flight. We need to be ready." Victoria studied him. "You've thought this through. A plan for contingencies, Ms. Reeves. It's what kept me alive all these years." She nodded slowly. "I'll get the emergency order. You focus on keeping track of your son." Lucas was already texting Dominic. "Need eyes on subject 3 immediately. School, home, all movements." The response came quickly. On it. What about subject 1? Lucas considered his options. Melissa was angry, but constrained by the agreement she'd just signed. Dr. Wilcox, however, had no such constraints. Priority on 2 and 3, he replied. 1 is neutralized for now. What Lucas didn't share with either Victoria or Dominic was the final phase of his plan, the one that would ensure Melissa and Nathaniel never threatened his family again. For that, he needed different allies. As he left Victoria's office, Lucas made a call to a number few people possessed, the direct line to Colonel Peters' secure phone. "It's Davenport," he said when the colonel answered. "I need to activate contingency, Delta." There was a pause. "That's extreme, Lucas. Are you sure?" "They're planning to take my son out of the country, sir." "So yes, I'm sure." "Understood. I'll make the calls. Delta will be active within the hour." Lucas ended the call and checked his watch. 18 hours until the endgame began. Chapter 6. The Precipice. The emergency hearing before Judge Watkins lasted less than 30 minutes. With evidence of the planned flight to Cancun and the newly signed custody agreement, the judge had no difficulty issuing an emergency order prohibiting either child from leaving the country and restricting their travel beyond Colorado without Lucas's written permission. Armed with the court order, Lucas drove to Riverdale High School. The final bell had just rung, and students were streaming toward buses and waiting cars. He spotted Aiden immediately, taller than when Lucas had last seen him, with the same dark hair and strong jawline that Lucas saw in the mirror every morning. Lucas approached slowly, giving his son time to notice him. When Aiden looked up and saw him, the boy froze, his expression cycling through shock, anger, and confusion. "What are you doing here?" Aiden demanded when Lucas reached him. "I need to talk to you," Lucas said quietly. "I have nothing to say to you." Aiden turned away. Lucas placed a gentle but firm hand on his shoulder. "This isn't optional, Aiden. We're going to talk. Now, Mom said you can't force me to go with you. Your mother doesn't make those decisions anymore," Lucas said, showing Aiden the court order. "As of 2 hours ago, I have primary custody of both you and your sister during the divorce proceedings." "Divorce?" Aiden's voice cracked. "So you're really leaving us?" The accusation, so backward, so twisted from reality, struck Lucas like a physical blow. "Is that what she told you? That I'm leaving?" Aiden looked away. "She said you were never really here anyway." "Let's go somewhere we can talk privately," Lucas suggested, gesturing to his car. After a moment's hesitation, Aiden followed. They drove in silence to a nearby park, found an empty bench, and sat side by side, watching kids play on a distant playground. "Do you know why I didn't come home for Christmas?" Lucas finally asked. Aiden stared at his hands. "Because I told you not to." "And why did you send that text?" Silence. "Aiden, I need you to be honest with me," Lucas pressed. "Was that message your idea, or did someone suggest it?" "Mom said." Aiden swallowed. "Mom said you were only coming home because you had to, that you didn't really want to be with us, that we'd all be happier if you just stayed away." Lucas took a deep breath, controlling his anger. "And you believed her? What was I supposed to believe?" Aiden's voice rose. "You've been gone for 4 years, Dad. 4 years. You missed everything. My basketball championships, my first girlfriend, Nora's middle school graduation. Everything." "I know," Lucas acknowledged. "And I'll regret that for the rest of my life. But I was serving our country, Aiden. I wasn't absent by choice. You could have transferred to a stateside post. Other military parents do it." "Yes, I could have," Lucas admitted. "And I was trying to arrange exactly that. My final deployment was supposed to be my last overseas tour. I was planning to request a training position at Fort Carson so I could be home every night." Aiden looked skeptical. "Really?" Lucas pulled out his phone and showed Aiden an email exchange with his commanding officer, dated 3 months earlier, discussing the transfer request. "I wanted to surprise you all at Christmas," Lucas explained. "A permanent homecoming, not just another leave." Aiden's shoulders slumped. "Mom never said anything about that." "I imagine there are a lot of things your mother hasn't told you," Lucas said carefully. "Like her relationship with Dr. Wilcox." Aiden's head snapped up. "What about Dr. Nate? How long have you known about them, Aiden?" "A few months," Aiden admitted. "Mom said they fell in love while you were gone. That sometimes these things happen." And the trip to Cancun next week? Did she tell you about that? Aiden's confused expression answered the question. Your mother and Dr. Wilcox purchased 3 tickets to Mexico, Lucas explained. For them and you. One-way tickets. That's not. Aiden stopped, uncertainty clouding his features. She wouldn't just take me away without telling me. She was planning to tell you at the last minute, Lucas said gently. Probably with some story about how I'd agreed to it, or how it was just a vacation. How do you know that? Because I've seen the evidence, Aiden. The ticket purchases. The rental property they secured in Cancun. The Mexican school they contacted about enrollment. Aiden looked devastated. Why would she do that? Because she and Dr. Wilcox have been misappropriating money from the trust fund your great-grandfather set up for your college education, Lucas explained. They were about to be caught, so they planned to run. I don't believe you, Aiden said, but his voice lacked conviction. Lucas handed him a folder containing printouts of the evidence, carefully selected to prove his claims without revealing the full extent of Melissa and Nathaniel's crimes. As Aiden read through the documents, his expression hardened. She lied to me. Yes, Lucas confirmed. She did. And that text she had me send you was part of her plan to keep me away until they could finalize their escape. Aiden closed the folder, his hands trembling slightly. What happens now? Now I take you home, Lucas said. To our home. Your mother will be moving out tonight, per the court order. And Dr. Nate? He won't be welcome in our home anymore. Aiden nodded slowly. What about Nora? She'll be with us too. Does she know about all this? Lucas hesitated. She knows some of it. She never believed the lies about me. That brought a flash of shame to Aiden's eyes. I'm sorry, Dad. For the text. For believing Mom. You're 16, Aiden. You trusted your mother, as you should have been able to. Lucas placed a hand on his son's shoulder. The blame isn't on you. As they drove home, Lucas's phone buzzed with updates from Dominic. Melissa had been observed packing suitcases. Dr. Wilcox had withdrawn another $50,000 in cash. They were accelerating their plans, despite the court order. Lucas texted back, maintain surveillance. Alert me to any approach to either child or the airport. Then he called Colonel Peters. Delta is in position, the colonel confirmed. Just give the word. Not yet, Lucas replied. Let them make the first move. When they arrived home, Nora was waiting on the porch. She ran to embrace both of them, her relief palpable when she saw Aiden with their father. You fixed it, she said to Lucas. Not yet, Lucas corrected, but I'm working on it. Inside, the house showed signs of hasty packing. Empty spaces on shelves, gaps in the closets visible through the master bedroom's open door. Melissa had clearly taken what she could grab quickly. Lucas gathered his children in the living room. I know this is all happening very fast, he began, and there's a lot I haven't told you yet about what's been going on between your mother and me. Is it true she stole our college money? Aiden asked bluntly. Nora gasped. What? Not all of it, Lucas clarified. I managed to secure most of the trust before any permanent damage was done. But yes, she and Dr. Wilcox were accessing funds they shouldn't have been. For the house in Aspen, Nora said quietly. Both Lucas and Aiden turned to her in surprise. I heard them talking about it, she explained, about how they'd have weekend getaways in the mountains while we were at school or with friends. The casual cruelty of that plan, excluding the children from their stolen luxury, reignited Lucas's cold fury. But he kept his expression neutral for his children's sake. The important thing now is that we're together, he told them. And I promise you both, I'm not leaving again. My active service days are over. As they prepared dinner together, a simple meal of pasta and salad, the first they'd shared as a family in years, Lucas maintained a careful vigilance. He knew Melissa wouldn't accept defeat easily. The court order, the exposure of her plans, the loss of her children, these were setbacks, not surrender. His phone vibrated with a text from Dominic. Subjects 1 and 2 meeting at hotel near airport. Surveillance in place. Perfect. Everything was proceeding according to plan. After dinner, as Aiden and Nora settled in to watch a movie, Lucas excused himself to make a call from his study. He couldn't afford to have his children overhear this conversation. Colonel, he said when Peters answered. Initiate Delta. Phase 1 only. Understood, the colonel replied. Timeline, 20 minutes. Lucas ended the call and rejoined his children, his expression betraying nothing of what was about to unfold. Exactly 19 minutes later, his phone rang. The caller ID showed unknown. "Excuse me," he told Aiden and Nora. "I need to take this." In the privacy of the kitchen, he answered. "Davenport. Sir, this is Agent Reynolds, DEA. We've executed the warrant at the location you identified through your military intelligence channels. I'm calling to inform you that we've detained 2 individuals found in possession of significant quantities of controlled substances, including oxycodone and fentanyl, without prescription authorization." "I see," Lucas said. "And their identities?" "A Dr. Nathaniel Wilcox and a woman identified as Melissa Davenport. She claims to be your wife, sir." "She is," Lucas confirmed. "For now, given your position with military intelligence and your role in providing this information, we wanted to confirm how you'd like us to proceed." "Process them according to standard protocols, Agent Reynolds. No special treatment." "Understood, sir. We'll keep you updated as the case progresses." Lucas ended the call and leaned against the counter, closing his eyes briefly. Phase 1 complete. His wife and her lover were now in federal custody, facing charges that would keep them occupied for quite some time. Charges based on evidence that had been carefully, legally obtained through proper channels. The prescription fraud they'd been committing for months had finally caught up with them. The fact that the investigation had been expedited through Lucas's military connections was merely a matter of fortunate timing. He composed his features and returned to the living room. "Everything okay, Dad?" Nora asked, noticing his expression. "Yes," Lucas assured her. "Everything is exactly as it should be." Chapter 7, The Fallout. The morning headlines were sensational. Prominent surgeon and nurse arrested in prescription drug scheme. Lucas watched his children's reactions as they read the news on their phones over breakfast. Aiden looked stunned. "Mom was arrested?" "Last night," Lucas confirmed. "The DEA had been investigating Dr. Wilcox for prescription fraud for some time. Your mother was implicated. Will she go to jail?" Nora asked, her voice small. "That depends on many factors," Lucas said carefully. "The evidence against them is substantial, but first-time offenders sometimes receive reduced sentences." "Did you know this was going to happen?" Aiden asked, studying his father with newfound perception. "I knew there was an investigation," Lucas acknowledged. "I didn't know when they would make arrests." This wasn't technically a lie. Lucas had indeed known about the DEA's interest in Dr. Wilcox's prescription practices, information he'd obtained legally through his military connections. The timing of the arrests, however, had been accelerated through those same connections. "Can we see her?" Nora asked. "She'll have an arraignment hearing today," Lucas explained. "After that, if she's granted bail, you can see her. And if she's not," Aiden pressed, "then visits would be arranged through the detention facility." Lucas observed his son's troubled expression. "Aiden, I know this is difficult, but your mother made choices that had consequences. This isn't my doing." Another technical truth. Lucas hadn't fabricated evidence or filed false reports. He had simply ensured that legitimate investigations weren't delayed by bureaucracy or overlooked due to Dr. Wilcox's prominent position. "What about our holiday?" Nora asked suddenly. "We were supposed to leave for Cancun next week." Lucas and Aiden exchanged a glance. "There's been a change of plans," Lucas said gently. "That trip wasn't what you were told it was." As he explained the true nature of the planned vacation, a permanent relocation designed to evade financial and legal accountability, Lucas watched understanding dawn in Nora's eyes. "They were going to take Aiden and leave me behind?" Her voice cracked with hurt. "The third ticket was in Aiden's name," Lucas confirmed, "but I can't say for certain what their long-term plans were for you." Tears welled in Nora's eyes. "Mom was going to abandon me." "Hey." Lucas moved to kneel beside her chair. "No one is abandoning you. I'm here. I'm staying. And we're going to get through this together, all 3 of us." Aiden, in a gesture that surprised Lucas, reached across the table to take his sister's hand. "Dad's right. We stick together now." The moment was interrupted by Lucas's phone. Victoria Reeves's name flashed on the screen. "I need to take this," he said, stepping into the next room. "Yes, Victoria?" "The arraignment is scheduled for 2 p.m., she reported. Judge Harmon's courtroom. Given the nature of the charges and the flight risk, documented by those one-way tickets, the prosecutor is pushing for remand without bail. Good, Lucas said. There's more, Victoria continued. Dr. Wilcox is turning on your wife. His attorney has already approached the DA about a deal. He testifies that Melissa was the mastermind behind both the prescription fraud and the misappropriation of trust funds, and he gets reduced charges. Lucas's jaw tightened. Is the DA considering it? They're listening. Wilcox has considerable influence in this community. But with the evidence we've provided about the trust fund, evidence that clearly shows Wilcox was the primary beneficiary, his story has significant holes. I want to be at the arraignment, Lucas decided. Are you sure that's wise? The press will be there. Let them come, Lucas said firmly. I have nothing to hide. After ending the call, Lucas returned to the kitchen to find his children in serious conversation, which abruptly stopped when he entered. The arraignment is this afternoon, he told them. I'll be attending. We want to come too, Aiden said, exchanging a glance with Nora, who nodded in agreement. Lucas considered his options. Shielding them from his ugliness was his instinct, but they'd already been exposed to so much. Perhaps witnessing the consequences of their mother's actions would provide a necessary, if painful, clarity. All right, he conceded, but you need to understand, this won't be easy to watch. We know, Nora said softly, but we need to see her. Lucas nodded. Get ready. We leave in an hour. While his children prepared, Lucas made another call, this one to Dominic. Progress report, he requested. Bank records confirm Dr. Wilcox transferred $1.2 million to an offshore account in the Caymans last month, Dominic reported. And get this, Melissa's signature is on the wire transfer authorization. They weren't just stealing from the trust fund. They were setting up their escape long before you came home. Can we trace the money? Already done. I forwarded the details to Victoria. With this evidence, Wilcox's attempt to paint Melissa as the mastermind falls apart. They were equal partners in this scheme. Good work, Lucas said. Keep digging. I want to know everything. There's one more thing, Dominic added. Your home equity line of credit. Melissa maxed it out 2 weeks ago. $300,000 transferred directly to Wilcox's personal account. Lucas closed his eyes briefly. Another betrayal. Another theft. Thank you, he said finally. I'll see you at the courthouse. The Denver County Courthouse buzzed with activity as Lucas and his children arrived. Press cameras flashed, and reporters shouted questions that Lucas ignored as he guided Aiden and Nora through the security checkpoint and into the building. Victoria met them in the hallway outside courtroom 3B. They're bringing the defendants up now. Are you prepared for this? We are, Lucas assured her, though he noted Nora's pale face and Aiden's clenched jaw. Remember, Victoria cautioned the children, no matter what happens in there, no outbursts. The judge won't tolerate disruptions. They nodded solemnly and followed her into the courtroom, taking seats in the second row. Lucas positioned himself between his children, a physical barrier against what was to come. The side door opened, and bailiffs led in Melissa and Dr. Wilcox, both wearing orange jumpsuits, their hands cuffed in front of them. Melissa's red-rimmed eyes scanned the courtroom frantically until they locked on Lucas and the children. Her expression crumpled. Mom, Nora whispered, half rising. Lucas placed a gentle hand on her arm, and she sank back in her seat. The proceedings moved quickly. The charges were read: conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, illegal distribution of controlled substances, wire fraud, misappropriation of fiduciary funds, and, most seriously, attempted parental kidnapping. When bail was discussed, the prosecutor was unequivocal. Your Honor, these defendants purchased one-way tickets to Mexico and were preparing to flee with the minor child of Ms. Davenport and her estranged husband. They represent the definition of flight risks. Dr. Wilcox's attorney argued for bail based on his client's standing in the community and lack of prior criminal record. Melissa's court-appointed lawyer, Graham Phillips, having withdrawn from the case after her arrest, made similar arguments. Judge Harmon was unmoved. Bail is denied for both defendants. They will be remanded to custody pending trial. As the bailiffs prepare to lead them out, Melissa turned toward Lucas and the children. Aiden, Nora, please, tell them this is a mistake. Your father is doing this to punish me. Aiden stared straight ahead, his expression hard. Nora buried her face against Lucas's shoulder. Defendants will refrain from addressing the gallery, Judge Harmon warned. As Melissa was led away, her eyes met Lucas's one final time. The hatred he saw there confirmed what he already knew. She would never forgive him for this, just as he would never forgive her for what she'd done to their family. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed around them. Victoria expertly deflected most questions, but one reporter managed to address Lucas directly. Mr. Davenport, how does it feel to see your wife facing such serious charges? Lucas considered his response carefully, aware of his children listening. Justice is never a cause for celebration, he said finally. But the truth needed to come to light for my children's sake. In the car driving home, Aiden broke the heavy silence. Dad, was all of this necessary? Couldn't you have just divorced Mom without the arrests and everything? Lucas glanced at his son in the rearview mirror. Aiden, what your mother and Dr. Wilcox were planning wasn't just morally wrong. It was criminal. They were going to take you out of the country against court orders. They stole from your trust fund. They committed fraud. These aren't accusations. They're documented facts. But still, Nora interjected, it's Mom. She raised us while you were gone. The implied accusation stung, but Lucas acknowledged its validity. You're right, Nora, and I'll always be grateful to her for that. But being a good mother for many years doesn't excuse criminal behavior later. What happens to us now? Aiden asked. We rebuild, Lucas said simply. One day at a time. That evening, as his children retreated to their rooms to process the day's events, Lucas sat in his study reviewing the latest updates from Victoria and Dominic. The case against Melissa and Nathaniel was solidifying. With the offshore accounts uncovered and the trust fund misappropriation documented, they were looking at potential sentences of 10 to 15 years. Lucas felt no triumph, no vindication. Only a hollowness where his life with Melissa had once been. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This isn't over, Lucas. You've destroyed everything I built. I'll never forgive you for this. M. Somehow, despite everything, Melissa had found a way to contact him. Lucas saved the message as evidence of her continued hostility, but didn't respond. Some battles weren't worth fighting. Instead, he opened his laptop and began researching family therapists in the Denver area. His children would need professional support to navigate the trauma of their mother's betrayal and arrest. And though he would never admit it aloud, perhaps he needed it too. The road ahead would be difficult, but Lucas had never shied away from difficult missions. This one, rebuilding his family from the ashes of betrayal, would be his most important yet. Chapter 8. The Reconstruction. 6 weeks after Melissa's arrest, the Davenport household had established a new normal. Lucas had taken a position as a tactical consultant with a private security firm in Denver, allowing him to work regular hours and be home for dinner every night, a simple pleasure he'd missed during his years of deployment. Aiden's initial anger had gradually softened as he participated in weekly therapy sessions and came to terms with the reality of his mother's actions. Nora, though still quietly grieving the loss of her mother's presence, had shown remarkable resilience, throwing herself into school activities and spending more time with Lucas. On this particular evening, as they cleared the dinner dishes together, Lucas noticed Aiden's thoughtful expression. Something on your mind? He asked his son. Aiden hesitated. Mom's preliminary hearing is next week. Yes, Lucas acknowledged. Victoria called this morning with the details. Are you going? I haven't decided. Lucas studied his son. Are you thinking about attending? Aiden shrugged, attempting casualness. Maybe. I haven't seen her since the arraignment. You could visit her at the detention center, Lucas suggested. I've told you before. I won't stand in the way of your relationship with your mother. I know. Aiden placed a plate in the dishwasher with unnecessary care. But seeing her in that place, it's hard. Of course it is, Lucas agreed. And no one would blame you for keeping your distance until you're ready. What about you? Aiden looked up. Are you ever going to forgive her? The question was direct, characteristic of the increased honesty in their relationship. Lucas considered his response carefully. No, he said finally. What your mother did wasn't just a betrayal of our marriage. It was a calculated plan to steal your future and separate you from me permanently. Some actions cross lines that can't be uncrossed. Aiden nodded slowly. That's what I thought you'd say. Does that bother you? No, Aiden said, surprising Lucas. Actually, it makes me feel safer somehow, knowing you have boundaries that can't be violated. Lucas placed a hand on his son's shoulder, struck by the maturity in his assessment. At 16, Aiden was navigating moral complexities that many adults struggled with. Dr. Levine says holding on to anger hurts me more than mom, Aiden continued, referencing his therapist. But I don't know how to let it go. Forgiveness is a personal journey, Lucas said. Don't rush it and don't fake it. Whatever you feel, anger, sadness, confusion, it's valid. Their conversation was interrupted by Nora bounding into the kitchen, holding her phone triumphantly. Dad, Coach Williams just texted. I made the varsity soccer team. Lucas grinned, embracing his daughter. That's fantastic, Nora. When's your first game? As Nora excitedly detailed the upcoming season schedule, Lucas caught Aiden's eye over her shoulder. His son offered a small smile, an acknowledgement of their interrupted conversation and an acceptance of its conclusion. Later that night, after both children had gone to bed, Lucas sat in his study reviewing documents Victoria had sent regarding the case. Melissa's defense team was pushing for a plea deal, hoping to reduce her potential sentence by testifying against Dr. Wilcox. The prosecutor wanted Lucas's input before proceeding. It was a position of power he hadn't sought but now held, the ability to influence his ex-wife's future. The vindictive path would be to oppose any deal to ensure she served the maximum sentence possible. But Lucas had never been motivated by vengeance, only by protection. His phone rang. Colonel Peters. Thought you'd want to know, the colonel said without preamble. The DEA task force found 3 more hospitals where Wilcox was running his prescription scam. This goes way beyond your wife, Lucas. He's been doing this for years. With different accomplices? Lucas asked. Looks that way. They've identified 2 other nurses who participated. Both claim they were coerced, threatened with termination if they didn't cooperate. Was Melissa coerced? No evidence of that, Peters replied. All indications point to her as a willing participant. The money trail is particularly damning. Her signature on those offshore transfers can't be explained away. Lucas absorbed this information silently. What are you thinking? Peters pressed. I'm thinking my children have suffered enough, Lucas said finally. If Melissa accepts responsibility for her actions and testifies truthfully against Wilcox, I won't oppose a reduced sentence. That's surprisingly merciful, given what she did. It's not mercy, Lucas corrected. It's pragmatism. My children need closure, not a prolonged legal battle. And I need to focus on rebuilding their trust, not pursuing retribution against their mother. After ending the call, Lucas drafted an email to Victoria outlining his position. He would not actively advocate for leniency, but neither would he stand in the way if Melissa demonstrated genuine remorse and cooperation. As he prepared to send the email, a text message arrived from Dominic. New development. Wilcox's ex-wife contacted me. Says she has information you need to hear. Meeting arranged for tomorrow, 10 a.m., usual place. Lucas's interest was piqued. Catherine Wilcox had divorced Nathaniel 8 years earlier after a bitter public battle that had made local headlines. What information could she possibly have that would be relevant now? The following morning, after dropping his children at school, Lucas arrived at the small coffee shop where he occasionally met Dominic for updates. Catherine Wilcox was already there, an elegant woman in her early 50s with silver-streaked dark hair and sharp eyes that assessed Lucas as he approached. Mrs. Wilcox, he greeted her, extending his hand. Thank you for meeting me. It's Ms. Monroe now, she corrected, accepting his handshake. I reverted to my maiden name after the divorce. And thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Lucas sat across from her. Dominic mentioned you have information. Yes. Catherine, or rather, Ms. Monroe, opened her handbag and removed a flash drive. 12 years of financial records Nathaniel thought I didn't keep. Offshore accounts. shell companies, property purchases under assumed names. A complete roadmap of his financial crimes. Lucas stared at the flash drive. Why give this to me now? Why not take it to the authorities years ago? Our divorce settlement included a non-disclosure agreement, she explained. I received a substantial payment in exchange for my silence. But that agreement had a clause. If Nathaniel was ever charged with a felony, the NDA would be void. And now he has been, Lucas observed. Exactly. A small, satisfied smile curved her lips. I've been waiting 8 years for this moment, Mr. Davenport. 8 years watching him move on to new victims while I remain bound by legal constraints. Victims, Lucas repeated. Catherine's expression hardened. Your wife isn't the first woman Nathaniel has manipulated into criminal activity. There was a pharmaceutical rep before her, a hospital administrator before that, and me at the beginning. His pattern is consistent. Find a woman with access to something he wants, charm her, involve her in his schemes, then discard her when she becomes a liability. And you have evidence of all this? She tapped the flash drive. Everything, including recorded conversations in which he discusses his methodology quite explicitly. Lucas took the flash drive, turning it over in his fingers. Why bring this to me instead of the prosecutor? Because the prosecutor is only concerned with the current charges, Catherine explained. You, however, have a different motivation. You want to protect your children from ever being manipulated by Nathaniel again. This evidence ensures he'll never be in a position to harm anyone in your family. Lucas studied her. You've done your research on me. Thoroughly, she acknowledged. I know about your military career, your intelligence background, your reputation for strategic thinking. I know you're not motivated by revenge, but by security. And I know that, unlike me, you won't be silenced by an NDA or intimidated by threats. What do you want in return? Lucas asked directly. Nothing, Catherine replied. Consider it a gift from one of Nathaniel's victims to another. Or rather, to your wife, who, despite her willing participation, was still playing a role in his script. Lucas pocketed the flash drive. I'll have this information verified and then forwarded to the appropriate authorities. Naturally, Catherine agreed. Due diligence is important, but you'll find everything is meticulously documented. I was an accountant before I married Nathaniel. Record keeping is second nature to me. As they parted ways, Catherine offered one final observation. You know, Mr. Davenport, there's a certain satisfaction in watching someone who believes themselves untouchable finally face consequences. I imagine you understand that feeling. I do, Lucas acknowledged. But it's a hollow satisfaction. Perhaps, she conceded. But it's better than the alternative. Watching them continue to destroy lives without consequences. Lucas couldn't argue with that assessment. The evidence Catherine provided proved transformative in both cases. Over the next 2 weeks, faced with the overwhelming documentation of his past crimes, Dr. Wilcox accepted a plea deal that would keep him in prison for 20 years. As part of the agreement, he admitted that Melissa had joined his operation only in the past 2 years, not as its architect, but as a participant. This clarification, combined with Melissa's full cooperation, resulted in a reduced sentence for her, 8 years, with the possibility of parole after 5. Still a substantial punishment, but not the decade-plus she had been facing. When Victoria called with the news, Lucas received it without comment. This is the best outcome we could have hoped for, Victoria assured him. Wilcox will be incarcerated well into his 60s. His medical license is permanently revoked, and Melissa's sentence, while significant, allows for the possibility that she might repair her relationship with your children while they're still relatively young. If they want that relationship, Lucas noted. Of course, Victoria agreed. That will be entirely their choice. But the opportunity will exist, which I think is important for their long-term emotional health. After ending the call, Lucas found himself on the back porch, staring at the mountains in the distance. The legal battles were concluding. The immediate threats were neutralized. Now came a harder part, helping his children heal from wounds that no court could address. Nora joined him, wrapped in a sweater against the evening chill. Is it over? She asked simply. The legal part is mostly over, Lucas confirmed. Your mother accepted a plea deal today. 8 years, possibly less with good behavior. Nora absorbed this silently, then said, "She wants us to visit. She's been writing letters." "I know," Lucas acknowledged. "Have you decided if you want to see her?" "Not yet." Nora leaned against the porch railing. "Part of me misses her. Another part is so angry I can barely breathe sometimes." "Is that normal?" "Completely normal," Lucas assured her. "There's no right way to feel about this, Nora. Whatever you're experiencing is valid." "What about you?" she asked, echoing Aiden's earlier question. "How do you feel?" Lucas considered his answer carefully. "I feel determined," he said finally. "Determined to be here for you and your brother. Determined to rebuild what was broken. Determined to ensure nothing like this ever threatens our family again." Nora studied him. "You don't hate her?" "Hate requires emotional investment," Lucas explained. "And I've chosen to invest my emotions elsewhere. In you, in Aiden, in our future together." His daughter nodded slowly, seeming to understand. "That's kind of how I want to feel too. Like Mom just doesn't matter anymore. Not in a mean way, but in a moving on way." "That's a healthy perspective," Lucas told her. "And it's okay if you're not there yet. Healing takes time." As they stood together watching the sunset paint the mountains in gold and purple, Lucas felt a quiet certainty that they would be all right. Not immediately, not perfectly, but eventually and authentically. The family they rebuilt might look different from what they'd had before, but it would be stronger, more honest, and ultimately more resilient. That night, after Nora and Aiden had gone to bed, Lucas sat at his desk and composed a letter, not to Melissa, but to his children. A letter they wouldn't receive until years later, when they were adults and could fully understand the choices he'd made on their behalf. "My dear Aiden and Nora, by the time you read this, the events of 2023 will be distant memories, but their impact on our family will have shaped who we've all become. I want you to know that every decision I made during that difficult time was guided by a single purpose: protecting your future. Your mother made choices I could not forgive. Not because I lack compassion, but because forgiveness would have signaled that such betrayals were acceptable. They were not. They never will be. Some might call my response to her actions harsh or unforgiving. Perhaps it was. But in life, we must establish boundaries that cannot be crossed without consequences. This is not cruelty, it is clarity. It is respect for ourselves and for the trust others place in us. I hope that, as adults, you've found your own balance between compassion and self-protection. I hope you've learned to forgive when it served your heart, but to stand firm when forgiveness would only invite further harm. Most of all, I hope you know how deeply you are loved, not just by me, but by all who have the privilege of knowing the remarkable people you've become. With enduring love, Dad. Lucas sealed the letter and placed it in a fireproof safe along with other important documents. Then he turned out the lights and prepared for bed, ready to face whatever challenges tomorrow might bring. Chapter 9. The Resolution. 2 years after Melissa's sentencing, Lucas stood in the crowded gymnasium of Riverdale High School, applauding as Aiden crossed the stage to receive his diploma. Now 18, his son had grown into a young man of remarkable character, thoughtful, resilient, and fiercely loyal to those who earned his trust. Beside Lucas, 16-year-old Nora cheered loudly for her brother, her face alight with pride. She had blossomed in her own right, excelling both academically and athletically, recently named captain of the varsity soccer team. As Aiden rejoined them after the ceremony, Lucas embraced him tightly. "Congratulations, son. I couldn't be prouder." "Thanks, Dad." Aiden's smile was genuine, a stark contrast to the angry, confused teenager he'd been 2 years earlier. "We should get moving if we're going to make our dinner reservation," Nora reminded them, already heading toward the exit. The celebration at Aiden's favorite restaurant was perfect: good food, easy conversation, and the comfortable rhythm of a family that had found its balance. When Aiden opened Lucas's gift, a vintage military compass that had belonged to Lucas's grandfather, his eyes widened in recognition. "You always said this was your most treasured possession," he said, turning the brass instrument in his hands. "It was," Lucas confirmed. "Now it's yours." A reminder that even when the path forward isn't clear, you have the tools to find your way. Later that evening, After Nora had gone to bed, Aiden lingered in the living room with Lucas, something clearly weighing on his mind. "Everything okay?" Lucas asked. Aiden hesitated, then said, "I got a letter from Mom last week. She's up for her first parole hearing next month." Lucas nodded. He'd received formal notification as the victim of record. "How do you feel about that?" "Conflicted," Aiden admitted. "Part of me thinks she's served enough time. Another part," he trailed off, "isn't ready to have her back in your life." Lucas finished for him. "Yeah." Aiden looked relieved at the understanding. "Is that terrible?" "Not at all," Lucas assured him. "Your feelings are valid, Aiden. And whatever you decide, whether to reconnect with your mother or maintain distance, I'll support you." "What about you?" Aiden asked. "Will you oppose her parole?" Lucas had given this considerable thought. "No," he said finally. "I won't actively oppose it, but neither will I advocate for it. The parole board will make their decision based on her behavior and rehabilitation, not my input." Aiden nodded slowly. "That seems fair. The important thing," Lucas continued, "is that regardless of their decision, our family remains solid. Your mother's potential release doesn't change who we are or what we've built together." The following week brought unexpected news, not about Melissa, but about Dr. Wilcox. He had been killed in a prison altercation, allegedly after information about his crimes against children through prescription fraud had circulated among inmates. The man who had nearly destroyed the Davenport family was gone. Lucas received the news with complex emotions. As a soldier, he had taken lives in combat, but never derived satisfaction from death. Yet he couldn't deny the sense of closure that came with knowing Nathaniel Wilcox would never again threaten his family or manipulate others. He shared the news with his children carefully, emphasizing that while they might feel various emotions about Wilcox's death, celebrating it would be inappropriate. "I don't feel happy about it," Nora said thoughtfully, "but I don't feel sad either." "Is that wrong?" "No," Lucas assured her. "It's a measured response to someone who caused significant harm." "Do you think it will affect Mom's parole hearing?" Aiden asked. "Possibly," Lucas acknowledged. "Without Wilcox's influence, the board might view her as less likely to reoffend." The prediction proved accurate. 1 month later, Melissa was granted parole with strict conditions: regular check-ins with a parole officer, mandatory counseling, and various restrictions on her movement and employment. She would be released in 2 weeks. The news arrived as the Davenports were preparing for another milestone: Aiden's departure for college. He had been accepted to the United States Naval Academy, a choice that had initially surprised Lucas, but one he fully supported. "Will you be okay with Mom out while I'm gone?" Aiden asked as they packed his belongings. "I mean, with just you and Nora here?" The concern in his son's voice touched Lucas deeply. "We'll be fine, Aiden. Your mother has no legal right to approach either of you without permission, and she knows better than to test those boundaries with me." "Still," Aiden persisted, "if she tries anything—" "She won't," Lucas said firmly. "But if she does, I'm more than capable of handling it. Focus on your education and training. That's your mission now." The day Melissa was released coincided with Aiden's departure for Annapolis. Whether this timing was deliberately engineered by Melissa's legal team or merely coincidental, Lucas couldn't say. But he appreciated that it spared Aiden an immediate decision about whether to see his mother. Nora, however, faced that choice directly. Melissa had sent a letter requesting a meeting, a careful, tentative invitation that acknowledged Nora's right to refuse. "What should I do, Dad?" Nora asked, showing him the letter. Lucas handed it back without comment. "That's entirely your decision, Nora. I won't influence you either way." She studied him. "But you still won't see her." "No," Lucas confirmed. "My position hasn't changed." "Because you don't believe she's really sorry?" "Because some breaches of trust can't be repaired," Lucas explained. "Your relationship with your mother is different from mine. You should make your own choice based on what feels right for you." After several days of consideration, Nora decided to meet Melissa at a neutral location, a public park with Lucas waiting at a discreet distance. The reunion was brief, and from what Nora later shared, awkward but not hostile. "She's different," Nora observed that evening. "Quieter. Less, I don't know, polished." "Prison changes people," Lucas said neutrally. "She asked about you," Nora continued. Want to know if you were dating anyone. What did you tell her? The truth. That you've had a few dates, but nothing serious. Nora grinned. Though I think Ms. Rivera from my math department is hoping to change that. Lucas smiled but didn't take the bait. His few ventures into dating had been cautious and private. Creating stability for his children had been his priority, not rebuilding his romantic life. Mom also asked if she could come to my games sometimes. Nora continued, her expression growing serious. I said I'd think about it. And will you? Lucas asked. Maybe. Eventually. Nora shrugged. I'm not ready to have her that involved yet. But I might be someday. That's a healthy approach. Lucas approved. Take your time. Set your boundaries. Life settled into a new rhythm. Aiden thrived at the Naval Academy, calling weekly with updates. Nora maintained cautious, limited contact with Melissa, occasional meetings, always in public places, always on Nora's terms. Lucas focused on his work and his relationship with his daughter, creating a home environment where she continued to flourish. Then, 6 months after Melissa's release, Lucas received an unexpected visitor at his office. Graham Phillips, Melissa's original divorce attorney, requested a private meeting. Mr. Davenport, Phillips began once they were seated in Lucas's office. I represent a client who wishes to purchase your property in Aspen. Lucas raised an eyebrow. I don't own property in Aspen. Not directly, Phillips acknowledged. It's held in a trust established by your grandfather. The same trust your ex-wife and Dr. Wilcox attempted to misappropriate. I'm aware of the trust, Lucas said carefully. But it doesn't own Aspen property. Phillips smiled thinly. Actually it does. When the authorities investigated the misappropriation, they discovered that while your wife and Dr. Wilcox had diverted funds, those funds were ultimately used to purchase legitimate assets. The court restored those assets to the trust. This was news to Lucas. He'd been so focused on the criminal proceedings and his children's well-being that he'd left the financial restoration details to the forensic accountants. So there's a property in Aspen that legally belongs to my children's trust fund, Lucas summarized. And your client wants to buy it. Yes, Phillips confirmed. For substantially more than market value. Why? The property has sentimental significance to my client. Understanding dawned. Your client is Melissa. Phillips didn't confirm or deny. The offer is $7.2 million. The property was purchased for $5 million using diverted funds. Lucas leaned back, considering. The trust was established for his children's education and future security. A premium of over $2 million would significantly enhance that security. I'll need to consult with the trustee, Lucas said finally. Of course, Phillips agreed, sliding a business card across the desk. Please have them contact me directly with any questions. After Phillips left, Lucas called Victoria Reeves, who confirmed the property's existence and its legal status. The prosecution kept it quiet during the criminal proceedings, she explained. They were focused on establishing guilt, not asset recovery. But yes, the Aspen property was purchased with trust funds and has been legally restored to the trust. And the offer is legitimate. $7.2 million is well above market value, Victoria confirmed. From a purely financial perspective, it's an excellent deal for your children's trust. But the buyer is almost certainly Melissa, Lucas noted, which raises other considerations, such as why she wants this particular property so badly, what her true motives are. Victoria was silent for a moment. Lucas, I've represented you through this entire ordeal. I've seen firsthand how Melissa's actions devastated your family. If you want to reject this offer on principle, I would understand completely. It's not my money to refuse, Lucas pointed out. It belongs to Aiden and Nora. Then perhaps you should discuss it with them, Victoria suggested. They're old enough to have input on decisions affecting their future. That evening, Lucas arranged a video call with Aiden and had Nora join them in the living room. He explained the situation as neutrally as possible, presenting the financial facts without speculation about Melissa's motives. So Mom wants to buy this house she picked out with Dr. Wilcox. Nora clarified, her expression dubious. Apparently, Lucas confirmed. Using money she doesn't have. Aiden added from the screen of Lucas's laptop. Where is she getting $7 million? That's a valid question, Lucas acknowledged. One I intend to have answered before any sale proceeds. But if everything checks out, Nora persisted, would we sell? Lucas looked between his children. That's what I wanted to discuss with you both. This is your trust fund, your future. The decision should reflect your wishes. Aiden and Nora exchanged a glance through the video call. I think we should sell, Aiden said finally. Not for Mom's sake, but for ours. That much additional money in the trust would secure Nora's college education, and then some. I agree, Nora nodded. But I have one condition. What's that? Lucas asked. We never set foot in that house, Nora said firmly. I don't want any part of something Mom and Dr. Wilcox picked out together while they were stealing from us. Agreed, Aiden said immediately. Lucas nodded, proud of their mature perspective. Then I'll have Victoria proceed with the sale, contingent on verification of the fund's source. The investigation into Melissa's finances revealed an unexpected source for the purchase money, a life insurance policy on Dr. Wilcox that named Melissa as beneficiary. The policy had been established years before they met, with his first wife as the original beneficiary, but never updated through subsequent marriages. The irony wasn't lost on Lucas. Nathaniel Wilcox, who had manipulated and ultimately betrayed Melissa, was now posthumously funding her desires. After thorough legal review, the sale proceeded. The trust received the full amount, which was immediately diversified into more stable investments. The property in Aspen transferred to Melissa's ownership with no further connection to the Davenport family. Lucas never asked why the property meant so much to her. Some questions were better left unanswered. 5 years later, Lucas stood with Nora on another graduation stage, this time at Stanford University, where she had just received her degree in biomedical engineering. Aiden, now a commissioned officer in the Navy, stood beside them in his dress uniform. They posed for photos, their smiles genuine, their bonds stronger than ever. The journey from that devastating text message to this moment of triumph had been arduous, filled with pain and difficult choices. But they had emerged not just intact but transformed, more resilient, more honest with themselves and each other, more appreciative of the family they had rebuilt. As they left the ceremony, Lucas's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Congratulations to Nora. You've raised remarkable children. M. Lucas read the message but didn't respond. Some boundaries remained absolute. That evening, as he watched Aiden and Nora laughing together at dinner, Lucas reflected on the lessons of the past 7 years. He had discovered his own capacity for ruthlessness when his family was threatened. He had learned that protection sometimes required hard choices with painful consequences. And he had confirmed what he'd always believed, that some betrayals could never be forgiven. But he had also discovered something unexpected, that unforgiveness didn't have to equal bitterness, that maintaining boundaries didn't require maintaining anger, that moving forward didn't necessarily mean reconciliation, but it did require release. He had released Melissa from his life completely. He had released the need for further retribution. He had released the marriage and the dreams it once represented. What he had kept was what mattered most: his children, his integrity, and the knowledge that when tested, he had done what was necessary to protect his family, without hesitation, without compromise, and without regret. The text Melissa had sent years ago still lived in his phone. This isn't over, Lucas. You've destroyed everything I built. I'll never forgive you for this. His reply then had been silence. His reply now, if he were inclined to give one, would be simple. Understood. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.